So we are starting accounting for overheads. So already you may be knowing what is overhead. Overhead is nothing but indirect cost, right? Indirect cost or indirect expenses. Some of the examples of overheads can be rent or administrative expenses. There can be some indirect factory expenses as well. That is like factory rent. Okay. Yeah, just a second, bro. Just a second. So, like indirect factory expenses like factory rent. Okay. So these are the examples of overheads. Now, so what are we going to learn in this chapter? Accounting for overheads. We are going to first learn what is absorption costing. We are going to learn the absorption costing process. We are going to learn what is called allocation, what is called apportionment of the overheads, right? To cost centers. And then we are going to see the reapportionment of service cost, like center, reapportionment of service cost center overheads. So all these things I will be explaining how it goes. Absorption of overheads into production cost units. This also I'll be explaining you what is under absorption or over absorption of overheads. And then we will be seeing what is marginal costing, contribution, advantages and disadvantages of marginal costing. So here you have seen two things. One is absorption costing and one is marginal costing. So you'll be learning about these two types of like costing. Then we will see calculating a profit or loss under absorption costing and working backwards, absorption costing versus marginal costing, and then reconciliation, right? Let's go ahead in this. So I think I know all these things are very new for you, but this is very interesting topic, and it's a very easy one as well. It's very much related to the routine life, right? Now let's take into consideration the first point, that is overview regarding the absorption costing. Absorption costing is a method for accounting for overheads that allows a business to determine the cost of making its product or providing a service. That means, see, direct material we have per unit wise, that is, let's say $5. That means if I'm making 1000 units, the direct material, total direct material cost will be $5,000. I understand. Direct labor, that is the labor who is working in my factory, I'm paying wages of $8 to them. So if I'm making, like, if my labor is working for, you know, 500 hours, for making 1,000 units, I'll be paying him a wage of $4,000 in totality. So this is available, this is available. But what happens about the overheads? Overheads or indirect cost are, you know, like, let's say it is something, like something, let's say it is in total units. Like, let's say, like it's a total cost. Let's say $10,000 I'm paying for the rent of the premise. Now you tell me, how shall I know what is the per unit cost of rent? That means for making 1 unit of this particular product, how much rent I am incurring. So definitely what you can do is 10,000 divided by 1,000 units. So per unit my rent cost is 10 rupees, right? $10, right? So this is a general way to understand. So when I get the per unit cost of the overhead, it becomes easy for me to find out the product of the cost of the product, right? If I know what is my direct material, what is my direct labor, and if I know what is my overhead here, my overhead is $10. Now I can do one thing. For making a product, I know I require material, which is of $5. For making a product, I know I require labor. They will work on the machine for producing the product. And I know the overheads right now are $10. Okay, so if I add them, it becomes $23. This is the cost of the product. Did you understand who this one? Hello? Hello? Who, did you understand this? I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's go ahead. Let's see in details what is this. So like businesses need to be able to ascertain the full cost of making their product. So I just left over here this overheads. I did not specify. So overheads can be manufacturing overheads, they can be administrative overheads, right? But for making the product, what you will be considering? You will be considering what? You will be considering manufacturing overheads, not administrative overheads, right? And again, manufacturing overheads can still be divided into two parts: fixed manufacturing overheads, variable manufacturing overheads. This you can still get per unit wise, but this will always be in total amount. So we need to find out per unit wise, and I explained you right now how to do that. There are various other ways also for finding out the per unit cost of overhead. You can divide the overhead amount. For example, it is manufacturing, it is factory rent. So if you want, that is $10,000. So if you want per unit, how much factory rent has gone for making 1 unit of product, I'm saying how much factory rent expenditure you have incurred to make 1 unit of product. You can divide this with the allocation base, that is machine hours or labor hours. So let's say 1,000 machine hours. So I will get $10 per machine hour that I can take, right? So there are two allocation bases naturally in absorption costing what we use, that is machine hour and labor hour. Okay, allocation can be done in many ways. This is the most widely used allocation base in the case of absorption costing. Now, so businesses need to be able to ascertain the full cost of making their product or service for three main reasons. One is for profitability, one is to get the selling price, and one is to value the inventory, right? Now there is an example in front of you of a cost card. So here there is a a cost card can be built up for an individual unit. So we take a direct material, 4 kgs we are using to make some product. Okay, that means 1 unit of product what we are making, for that the material what we want is 4 kg, and each kg is available for $2. So for 4 kgs of material I'm using for making 1 unit. It's clearly mentioned here. 4 kgs of raw material I am using for making 1 unit, and each kg is costing me $2. So 4 kgs would totally cost me $8. That means $8 I'll be spending for making 1 unit of material, 1 unit of direct material. Okay, again I'll keep it 1 unit. I want 4 kgs of material. Each kg is available at the rate of $2. So totally $8 is what I'll be spending for 4 kgs of material, and that would be the cost of 1 unit of product, right? With respect to direct material or material cost. So for making 1 unit of product, the material cost is $8, right? Labor, for making 1 unit of a product, like the labor cost I'm incurring is $21. How I got? So 3 hours the labor will be working, and $7 per hour is what we have fixed the wage of the labor. So 1 hour $7, 3 hours it will be $21. Then direct expenses, they did not mention or give the details, and then you get prime cost. You should understand direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses. These are the ones which are incurred for directly making the product. So this happens to be the prime cost. Okay, why prime cost? Because this is the main cost which are incurring for making the product. Then comes the indirect cost or overheads, that is $10. Okay, they have given per unit wise. So the total cost of the product is $43, right? This is a cost card. Now let me tell you, in this, since you are finding out the cost of the product, we will only be taking production overheads. Administrative overheads is never a part of product cost. It is always a part of period cost. That means you will be showing that in the P&L account directly when you make the company's financial statements, right? Because they are not incurred in making the product. Now, let's understand what is production overheads. So these are the overheads which we can say are traceable cost of production. What do you mean by traceable cost of production? No, this is overhead. These are non-traceable cost of production. Why these are non-traceable cost of production? Extremely sorry, I just didn't see this. Okay, production overheads. First of all, you should understand what is an overhead. Overhead is something which is an indirect cost. That means which cannot be directly traced towards the making of a product. Now, what I mean by this traceable, non-traceable? For example, if I'm making a particular product, let's say if I'm making ketchup, so direct material will be tomato. Okay, direct material will be tomato. Directly labor will be working. So 5 labors are required to make 10 kgs of ketchup. So 5 labors are working. So these two costs are direct cost which I am incurring for making that ketchup, right? If I tell you like direct labor, so if I tell you direct labor is like, let's say tomato is like $20 and this is $10. I can tell that these are directly traceable cost with respect to that particular product called ketchup. Why these are directly traceable cost? Because if I would have not made this ketchup, I would have never bought this raw material of tomato, and I would have never employed or hired these labors labors, because I have hired the labors for the purpose of making that ketchup. If I wouldn't have made that ketchup, I would have never hired these labors, right? So since this particular costs which I am mentioning here, direct material and direct labor, are only happening because of this particular activity called ketchup manufacturing. If ketchup manufacturing division wouldn't have been there, these costs wouldn't have been incurred, right? So these are directly traceable costs. These are directly traceable cost. Now, point number 2. If I tell you factory rent, let's say I'm manufacturing ketchup, I will definitely pay factory rent. Let's say for some point of time I'm not manufacturing the ketchup, but still I need to pay the factory rent, right? Come on, tell me yes or no, who? Hello? Are you hearing my voice, who I'm saying? Hello? Hello?